In the quiet village of Okariba, where the sun rose slowly over the palm trees and the morning air carried the smell of wood smoke and fresh cassava, there lived a girl named Amina. Amina was not like the other girls in the village. While they laughed and played in the dusty pathways, she walked. From the moment the rooster crowed before dawn, Amina's day had already begun. She fetched water from the river. She swept the compound. She pounded yam until her arms trembled with exhaustion. And she did it all without complaint. But the truth was, Amina was not loved in her own home. Her mother had died when she was very young, leaving her father, Kola, alone to raise her. For a while, Kola did his best. But loneliness is a heavy burden for a man. And so, one year, he married again. The woman he married was called Folik. At first, she appeared kind. She smiled when she first entered the compound. She greeted the villagers warmly. And she even called Amina my daughter. But kindness that wears a mask cannot hide forever. Not long after Folik settled into the house, everything changed. Folik had 2 daughters of her own, Sod and Busy. They were beautiful girls with fine braids and bright cloth wrappers. But they carried their mother's heart. Cold, jealous, cruel. While Amina worked from morning until night, Sod and Busy lounged in the shade. They admired themselves in small mirrors. They laughed loudly and mocked the girl who carried water for them. "Look at her," Sod would say, covering her mouth as she laughed. "She walks like a tired donkey." Busy would clap her hands and join in. "Maybe she was born to serve us." Their laughter echoed through the compound. And Folik never stopped them. In fact, sometimes she encouraged it. "A girl without a mother must learn her place," she would say. Kola, Amina's father, heard these things. But he said nothing. He told himself it was better not to interfere. After all, Folik managed the household now. And besides, Amina was strong. She could endure. But endurance is a quiet kind of suffering. And suffering, when ignored, grows deeper roots in the heart. Still, Amina remained gentle. Even when she was insulted. Even when she was hungry. Even when she was blamed for things she did not do. She held on to the memory of her mother's words. Her mother had once told her something when she was very small. "Kindness," she had said softly, "is a seed. Even when buried, it will grow." Amina remembered those words every day. She repeated them to herself while carrying firewood. She whispered them when tears filled her eyes. But none of that mattered to Folik. To her, Amina was a reminder. A reminder that her husband had loved another woman before her. And that was something she could never forgive. So she made sure the girl felt unwanted. Day after day. Morning after morning. Until one fateful day when the cruelty in that house would reach a point of no return. It happened in the marketplace. The village marketplace was always alive with color and noise. Women sold smoked fish and roasted plantains. Farmers brought baskets of yams and cassava. Children ran between the stalls while elders sat under the shade of large trees discussing the matters of the village. On that particular day, Amina walked behind Folik carrying a basket on her head. Inside the basket were vegetables they planned to sell. Sod and Busy walked proudly beside their mother, their wrappers bright and clean. Amina's cloth was faded from years of washing. But she said nothing. She simply walked quietly. When they reached the market stall, Folik began arranging the vegetables neatly. Amina stood nearby waiting for instructions. But Saud had other plans. She had been watching a woman at the next store who sold beautiful coral bracelets. They were bright and shining in the sunlight. Saud walked closer to the stall and picked one up. Then she glanced toward Amina. A slow smile spread across her face. Without anyone noticing, she slipped the bracelet into Amina's basket. Then she stepped back and shouted, "Mother!" Her voice was loud enough to draw attention. "Look! The bracelet seller says someone has stolen from her." The woman at the store gasped. "My bracelet," she cried. "Where is it?" Villagers began gathering around. The woman searched frantically. And then Saud walked toward Amina. Her eyes widened in fake shock. She reached into the basket and pulled out the bracelet. Gasps filled the air. "Amina!" Saud shouted. "You stole it!" Amina's heart dropped. "No," she said quickly. "I didn't take it." But the crowd was already whispering. Fulek stepped forward slowly. Her face filled with anger. "How dare you bring shame to this family," she said coldly. "I did not steal it," Amina repeated. But the words sounded small against the rising voices of the crowd. The bracelet seller slapped Amina across the face. "You thief!" The marketplace fell silent. And in that silence, Amina realized something terrible. No one was going to believe her. The marketplace slowly emptied. Whispers followed Amina wherever she stood. Some villagers looked at her with suspicion. Others simply shook their heads. But the person whose opinion mattered most had not yet spoken. Her father. When Kola arrived at the market later that afternoon, the story had already spread like wildfire. Fulek wasted no time telling him everything. She stood before him with a face full of disappointment. "Kola," she said, shaking her head, "your daughter has brought shame upon this family." Kola's face hardened. "What happened?" Fulek sighed deeply as though the words themselves caused her pain. "She stole from a trader in the marketplace." Saud quickly stepped forward. "I saw it with my own eyes," she said. Busy nodded eagerly beside her. "We all did." Amina stood quietly, her head lowered, tears forming in her eyes. Finally, Kola turned toward her. "Is this true?" he asked. Amina lifted her head slowly. "No, father," she said softly. "I did not steal anything." But her voice trembled. And in that moment, Kola made a terrible mistake. Instead of looking deeper, instead of questioning the situation, he chose the easier path. He believed the loudest voices. "Amina," he said with disappointment in his voice, "how could you do this?" Her heart broke at those words. "I didn't," she whispered. But Fulek stepped forward again. "Enough of these lies," she snapped. Since the day she grew older, she has been looking at other people's things with greedy eyes. "That is not true," Amina said, tears now falling down her cheeks. But the crowd had already made its judgment. And Kola felt the weight of their watching eyes. His pride could not bear it. Without thinking further, he pointed toward the dusty road that led out of the village. "Leave this house," he said. The words echoed like thunder in Amina's ears. She stared at him in disbelief. "Father." But Kola's face was firm. "You have shamed us," he said. "Until I can trust you again, you cannot stay here." Fulek folded her arms with satisfaction. Saud and Busy exchanged small smiles behind their mother. Amina felt as though the ground beneath her feet had vanished. Everything she had endured. Every chore. Every insult. And still her father believed the lie. She slowly bent down and picked up a small cloth bundle. It contained the only things she owned: a faded wrapper, a wooden comb, and a small piece of cloth that had belonged to her mother. She tied the bundle carefully. Then she looked at her father one last time. "I did not steal it," she whispered. But Kola could not meet her eyes. And so Amina turned away. The road out of Okoriba stretched long and lonely beneath the setting sun. Dust rose beneath her feet as she walked. Behind her, the voices of the village faded. In front of her was nothing but uncertainty. Night began to fall. The forest near the edge of the village grew dark and quiet. Crickets sang loudly in the grass. Amina's legs trembled from exhaustion. She had not eaten since morning. Finally, beneath a large tree, she sank to the ground. Tears fell freely now. Not just from the injustice, but from the loneliness. "Mother," she whispered softly into the darkness. "I wish you were here." The wind rustled gently through the leaves. And somewhere nearby, a lantern light flickered in the distance. Amina looked up. A tall elderly man slowly approached along the path. He carried a wooden staff and a lantern that cast warm light across the ground. His beard was long and grey. His eyes were calm and thoughtful. This man was known throughout the region. His name was Adifala. He was a healer, a keeper of herbs, a man many believed carried the wisdom of the forest itself. He stopped when he saw the young girl sitting beneath the tree. "Child," he said gently, "why does a girl sit alone on the road at night?" Amina quickly wiped her tears. I have nowhere to go." Adifala studied her carefully. He could see the pain in her eyes. "Where is your family?" he asked. Amina hesitated. "They sent me away." The old man nodded slowly. He had seen many things in his long life. And he understood that truth often hides behind silence. "Come," he said kindly. "The night is not a place for sorrow to sleep." He extended his hand. "Walk with me." Amina hesitated for a moment. But something in his voice felt safe. So she stood and followed him. Adifala's hut stood at the edge of the forest. It was small but warm. Bundles of herbs hung from the roof beams. Clay pots lined the walls. The air smelled of roots, leaves, and wood smoke. Adifala poured hot porridge into a bowl and handed it to her. "Eat," he said. Amina had not realized how hungry she was. She ate slowly at first. Then faster. The old healer watched quietly. When she finished, he placed another log on the fire. "You may stay here tonight," he said. "And tomorrow, we will decide what the next step should be." Amina lowered her head gratefully. "Thank you," she whispered. But Adifala shook his head gently. No child should wander the night alone. Outside, the wind moved softly through the forest. Inside the hut, the fire crackled warmly. And for the first time in many years, Amina slept without fear. But neither she nor the village knew that the girl they had cast out would soon become someone far greater than they had ever imagined. Morning arrived slowly in the forest. Golden sunlight slipped through the tall trees, warming the earth and filling Adifala's small hut with soft light. Amina woke to the sound of birds singing. For a moment she did not remember where she was. Then everything came rushing back. The marketplace. The accusation. Her father's words. She sat up slowly. Adifala was already outside. He stood beside a small table covered with leaves, roots, and clay bowls. When he saw Amina step outside, he nodded calmly. "You slept well," he said. "Yes," Amina replied softly. Adifala picked up a bundle of green leaves. "Do you know what this plant is called?" Amina shook her head. "This," he said, "is bitter leaf. Many people dislike its taste, but it has the power to heal fever." He handed the leaves to her. Crush them. Amina did as he asked. The scent filled the air. From that moment on, Amina began learning. Day after day, Adifala showed her how to recognize healing plants. Which roots cured stomach pain? Which leaves cooled fever? Which bark helped wounds heal faster? Amina listened carefully. She worked hard. And she learned quickly. Soon villagers began visiting the herbalist hut again. At first they came only for Adifala. But slowly something changed. When a sick child arrived one afternoon, Adifala stepped aside. Let Amina prepare the medicine, he said. The mother looked surprised. But she nodded. Amina carefully crushed herbs and mixed them with warm water. She spoke gently to the child. Within hours, the fever began to break. Word spread quickly through the village. The herbalist apprentice is very skilled. The girl has healing hands. More villagers began coming. And each time, Amina helped them. Her kindness never changed. She treated everyone with respect. Even the ones who once whispered about her. Adifala watched all this quietly. One evening as the sun set, he spoke to her. You carry strength inside you, he said. Amina looked down modestly. I only do what you taught me. Adifala smiled. No, he said. I only showed you the path. You chose to walk it. But while Amina's life slowly improved, life inside her father's compound had begun to fall apart. Without Amina there, the work became too much. Fulek was not used to heavy chores. Sad and busy certainly were not. The compound became messy. Meals were late. Firewood ran out. Even Kola noticed the change. One evening he returned from the farm tired and hungry. The cooking pot was empty. Why is there no food? He asked. Fulek sighed dramatically. You expect miracles. Who do you expect to do all those hard work? Me and my daughters, Kola said nothing. But deep inside, guilt began to grow. Still, pride kept him silent. Then something worse happened. The dry season arrived. But the rains did not come. The sun burned hotter each day. Fields cracked open. Crops withered. Farmers began losing their harvest. Soon the village faced a terrible truth. There would not be enough food. The famine spread quickly. Families struggled to survive. Even Kola's farm failed. Inside the compound, the situation grew desperate. The food basket slowly emptied. Sad and Busy grew thinner. One evening Busy whispered weakly. Mother, I am hungry. Fulek's face tightened. There is nothing left. Then Sad spoke. I heard something in the market today. Fulek looked up. What? That girl. Amina. Fulek's eyes darkened. What about her? They say she works with Adifala now. She helps heal people. And they say the chief asked her to help manage the village relief store. Fulek froze. A relief store? Yes. They are distributing food. Silence filled the room. Finally Kola stood up. His voice was heavy with regret. The daughter we chased away is now feeding the village. Fulek said nothing. But shame burned inside her chest. Days passed. Hunger became unbearable. Finally, one morning, Fulek wrapped her cloth tightly around herself. Come, she said to her daughters. Where are we going? Busy asked. Folek swallowed her pride. To the relief store. The relief store stood in the center of the village. Large sacks of grain were stacked under a shelter. Villagers stood in line holding baskets and calabashes. And at the center of it all was Amina. She stood calmly, speaking with the villagers and organizing the food distribution. Her movements were confident now. Her voice steady. Adifala stood nearby watching quietly. Then the crowd parted slightly. Because Folek, Sod, and Busy had arrived. Whispers spread through the line. Is that not the woman who chased her away? Look how things have changed. Folek walked slowly toward the front. For the first time in her life, she felt small. She stopped in front of Amina. For a moment, neither of them spoke. Finally Folek lowered her head. We have come for relief. The crowd watched closely. Amina studied the three of them. She saw their tired faces, their thin arms, their desperate eyes. Then Folek did something no one expected. She knelt. The proud woman who once ruled the household now knelt in the dust. I wronged you, she said quietly. There is no excuse. I was cruel. I let jealousy blind me. My daughters and I are hungry. If punishment is what you choose, I will accept it. But please, do not let them suffer for my mistakes. The entire village held its breath. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for. Would Amina take revenge? Would she humiliate the woman who humiliated her? Amina stood silently for a long moment. Then she turned to the workers beside her. Give them grain, she said. And dried cassava. And herbs for strength. Folek looked up in disbelief. You will help us? Amina nodded gently. If I become cruel like you were, then your cruelty wins. I choose something different. Tears filled Folek's eyes. For the first time, she truly understood the strength of the girl she once hated. That evening the village gathered in the square. Chief Adeyemi stood before the people. Amina, he said proudly, this village once failed you. But today you have shown us something greater than revenge. You have shown us mercy. He raised his staff. Let this be remembered. The girl they cast out has become the woman who saved them. The villagers applauded. Kola stepped forward slowly. He knelt before his daughter. I was blind, he said. Amina gently lifted him to his feet. The past cannot be changed, she said softly. But the future still belongs to us. And so, in the village of Okariba, a lesson was learned that would be told for generations. Sometimes the person people try to destroy becomes the one strong enough to forgive them.